Hello, welcome to the next edition of the Sports Coverage Podcast. I am yet Anshuman Joshi, and I'm once again joined by Arunava Chaudhari. And today we have Sidhhant Agarwal with us. He is founder of SportVot, which is a very interesting, very remarkable project, and tries to tackle a very important challenge that sporting industry faces in the country. So that is what we'll be talking about today, and what those challenges are, and what kind of project SportVot is. Keeping that in mind, I'll just leave the floor to Sidhhant. Sidhhant, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you could just tell a bit about yourself and what SportVot is.
Thanks, Anshuman. Thanks for having me on the show. I'll just give you a brief introduction of what we do and what SportVot is trying to achieve, and then maybe I can take your questions. So I'm one of the founders of SportVot. We are a team of 3 people who founded. Shumangi and Yash are also in this journey with me since the very first day. So what SportVot gives, or what SportVot in essence is, it's an online platform, which is a web plus a mobile platform, which gives you a simple online channel to live stream sports matches and sort of helps discover talent from the corners of the country. What we see generally in sports is live coverage. If you talk about sports, over 99% of sports matches across the world, not just India, have no form of live coverage. Now, that's due to many reasons, but one of the various of these various reasons is live streaming is difficult. Live coverage is difficult, expensive. There is lack of access to the right set of tools, resources, and that creates a big vacuum. And this also leads to a lack of transparency in the way talent is discovered, spotted, identified, and then developed in future. How they are sort of it's a big vacuum that this leaves. So that's been the motivation for us, where we want to build a platform which gives these athletes a common platform to showcase their talent and bring some sort of accountability, or some sort of organization in which you are looking at sports, you are using data to discover and identify talent. So that's the short motivation, or the single focus behind whatever we are doing.
Right. So, Arunava, we have talked a bit about the sports streaming issues in the country and why a lot of we have talked about the significant lack of grassroots projects in the first place. And we have talked about how mainstream broadcasters, mainstream media outlets, for very various reasons, they don't want to talk, or they want to pick up these projects because of the financial challenges they entail. Could you just go into detail about it, and once again tell us why is it that your existing well-established media outlets refrain from taking part into broadcasting of these competitions, not just on the grassroots level? We've seen that happening at the very top echelons of the different sports leagues as well.
I think that India has one issue which has sort of evolved over the last 15, 16 years, and that is the Indian Premier League in cricket. I think the Indian Premier League in cricket sort of sucks out a lot of money from the market, so that there is not that much of finances left for other sports to be funded. I think we take the typical example of football, and I was having a discussion yesterday with someone on Twitter, someone who's quite well versed with Indian football, and I had to sort of explain to him and said, listen, if you tomorrow put up the rights of the top leagues of Indian football, no one's going to buy it. If you and I want to buy it, we would most probably put 1 rupee on the table. If we ensure the production, they would give it to us. That is the reality of sports in India. And that is sort of the biggest problem, is that if at the top level, at the professional level, no one is willing to really spend on the money. And then, of course, if you're showing it on a TV channel, on a platform like, let's say, Fan Code, you have to ensure a certain quality. And that is something which is a topic in regard to how do you broadcast it, what quality are you broadcasting it, how are you getting it uploaded, are you using satellites, are you using the internet? And there are different multiple issues. And of course, when you break it down into sort of the lower leagues, into the sort of the semi-pro amateur level, to the local district panchayat level, then it becomes even more difficult. So that's why, what Sidhhant was saying, that these kind of platforms are needed for sort of the local game. And then on top of it, the regional game has a platform to showcase itself, not only locally, but theoretically, around the country, but theoretically globally as well.
So Sidhhant Arunava talks about just the paucity of financial for financial capital that is available, or its lack thereof. That media outlets don't really have the kind of money, and they don't really want to offer that kind of money to these kind of leagues. And we are talking about the top leagues of across the country. So from a financial standpoint, how does SportsVot challenge this? How do you challenge this problem that is not having enough money to broadcast the competitions in general?
Oh, absolutely. So that's why this is why you don't find coverage, right? Because it's difficult. And what Arunava also said was pretty much right. The biggest challenge is you have to ensure a certain degree of production if the bigger platforms want to carry it, or if even if you want to think about pitching it to them. So how can you reduce production costs, or how can you, like I mentioned earlier as well, democratize this access to quality production? That is one of the various problems that we are looking to solve. That is one of the core problems that we are looking to address, where we are trying to bring it in the hands of people. Of course, you might not get a broadcast of the scale of what you see in the Premier League with a smartphone. Definitely, you'll never get it. But you're still making things watchable with good-looking graphics. I'll tell you, some of our graphics that you see on SportVot are much better than international graphics or international scorecards that you're seeing out there. So it's about sort of making that quality video capture accessible initially. And even if you are using manpower, how low is your cost of delivering that production service to a federation, to a league or a club, whatever. So that's one of the most important factors in making it sustainable as well for someone like us as well, because we are a broadcaster as well. We are a platform as well as a broadcaster, sort of merged into two. So, and then when you talk about media houses wanting to pay or wanting to buy rights, it's a well-known fact that, as Arunava also said, that apart from IPL, which league in India gets media rights, where they hardly bought of. Even the Pro Kabaddi, we know what happened with that. So it's very difficult for media rights play to come in, but today media rights is not the only play that you can opt for. If you have your own OTT platform, you can look to monetize your audience in a much better mechanism. You can have advertisements, you can have a revenue share, you can have pay-per-view. It depends. So the more options that you have on table, the more avenues to monetize you'll have. So it's not just the media rights play that you will then look at. You look at upselling your existing sponsors, whatever. So if you are able to make that piece accessible, that production accessible first, where games are captured, video is captured, you have a certain critical mass that you can generate, then we can realistically talk about spends coming in through the consumer market, be it through advertisements, be it through people subscribing to watch content, or trying to support, even in the form of something like a Patreon can also work in India. But the real challenge is, where is the capture? The capture needs to start happening first. So that's one of the things that we are looking to address first.
Right. So let's talk about the challenge.
Could I ask one question in this? Because
Absolutely.
I find this monetization part very, very interesting. And Sidhhant, India is a very wary market when it comes to paying for content. People like their sort of cable bouquet, and nobody knows what you're actually paying for it. So do you think that the market is there for sports, for the sports that you are showcasing on your platform, for people to willing to pay for it? And theoretically, again, sponsorship is a different thing, because I think there is a lot of things. There's this gray area of betting companies, sponsoring all kinds of things. But is there a market really to look at to say, listen, I want to watch this local game or this regional game, and I'm willing to pay, I don't know how much, whatever it is, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, or even more for it?
I think if you are a friend or a family of someone who's playing in the match, you're surely going to pay more than 10 rupees. We've had instances where people have paid more as well. But I don't think India works in that manner. I don't see people paying to watch something, but I think people might pay to support someone. So even if you see today YouTube as the entire community aspect, you have people giving super chats and donations to random gamers that they are watching while esports streams are on. So I don't think there is a lack of appetite to support someone that you like. So it's about creating that fandom or your following, which is already there. You're trying to create social media. You are having 1,000 followers on your Instagram profile. Can you sort of convert them into members? Maybe give them some benefits of merchandise, or you are running a live stream of your match and someone is just contributing or donating, um, to, so I don't know, like your super chats in YouTube. I think those are the ways in which you can monetize much better than saying that the super I will not show you this video. I don't think that is that can work. I'm not disregarding. I would want it to work. We would make a lot of money with that. But I think this is for sure. That is a very, I feel is a very good way that you can, at least an experiment that you can do. And I would not bet against it. I would really go for it, because you are already seeing that behavior in sports as well, in the Western market for sure. But in esports and gaming in India, it's pretty much established now. So I think you can definitely try to convert that to sports.
Right. So, Arnav has asked a very interesting question regarding monetization. So, it's something that I would like to ask as an add-on, because currently I check the platform and I check the platform out, and I completely agree with your argument on the graphics. They are much better than most of the top leagues that are offering it out there. And most of it, I did not even require to register in order to access a lot of the grassroots competitions content that was out there. So my question here would be: is this a short time thing, or is this going to be the USP for SportSWOT for the entirety of the time? Can you do you find that the current model that you are using to monetize the platform and offering monetize the platform and generate revenue for yourselves as well, is it sustainable just for the moment, or is it sustainable for the entirety? And then by talking about how these kind of donations and these kind of membership systems can be created for like we have for Twitch, like we have in YouTube, like we have with Patreon. Are you planning to go for these kind of models in the future, so as to make sure at least that the competitions are available for free?
I wouldn't know that answer, to be honest, right now. But yes, definitely that's the long-term plan, where we would want it to be very much open. Something like a Twitch is the ideal case, or the ideal structure in which we would like to model ourselves on. Well, Twitch or Patreon, somewhere between that. So we would definitely want it to be evolving in that direction, rather than something like a Hotstar that you or any other platform like that you see. So that's definitely one. When you ask me monetization, yes, currently a bulk load of monetization comes from the creator side, the ones on the clubs or the federations that are using the platform to stream. And the second side is, of course, the advertisements and sponsorships. Yes, you have a lot of gaming companies who are wanting to advertise and sponsor events, but eventually it goes to the so we have a revenue share that we give to the rights holders, which are the organizers or the federations or the associations that are um, uh, hosting or creating the event. So of course they are also getting the benefits of streaming content and capturing video. So that we are already seeing, and of course we are also taking a percentage cut in that. So these are the two ways in which we monetize the most right now. If you ask me how sustainable this is, definitely it is covering a lot of costs for us right now. Maybe at bigger scale, we definitely look at more monetization. We have a lot of appetite from the sponsors for sure, who are wanting to put in more money for these matches for sure. So I do see even advertisements and sponsorships to an extent sustaining a percentage of whatever we are spending, and on the other side through the creators as well, that we are sort of earning currently. And eventually, like you said, and like I also earlier said, that we are looking to have these sort of open-ended sort of donations mechanism, which we think would be tipping. So that would be the tipping point, which would sort of convert it into a completely breaking even and beyond that sort of a model. So yeah, I think these would be those three basic ways in which we would look to sort of eventually monetize.
Right. So, tell me more about this sponsorship aspect of it. Like, what nature of sponsorship agreements are you currently able to make? Or these companies that are coming in, are they just coming in for but digital branding that you just slap our logo on one of the broadcasts just somewhere and we pay you for that? Or are you also working as an intermediary between the competition and the company, and you are going back to the competition and say, okay, this company is actually interested in being a powered by sponsor or even a title sponsor of your competition. So is that kind of interest somewhere is actually existing at the moment? And if it's not existing at the moment, do you see something like that manifesting for sports sport in general in the future?
It is already existing, to be honest. You have, so a sponsor today wants to have as much, um, take as much of the pie as possible, right? They would want to have, some would want category exclusivity. If you have a fantasy company coming in and they would want no one else to be in that category, so they would definitely want a, connection with the tournament organizer as well, or with the host as well, so that they could block it for us. So we have, if you ask me, there are digital, of course, there are digital. There are just people who are wanting to slap the logo and pay less and just, never deal with anyone on the ground. And then you have sponsors and advertisers who are wanting to be real supporters of the tournament, where they would want to, have a physical branding present. They would want to have connects with the organizer. They would want category exclusivities, etc. So there is already, like, you have powered by our gaming partners or someone like a My Team 11. They would want to have those um, associations as well. So it depends. It's a varying bucket for now. Of course, we don't have hundreds of sponsors right now. We have a few 50, 60 sponsors who are trying to experiment and trying to learn their way around this as well. And we ourselves are also honestly trying to figure out what is going to work the best. But if you ask me today, we are already seeing both. There are certain who are just wanting a digital call to action, sort of a call to action, which brings them leads or whatever, which they can measure. And there are certain who are wanting to have the entire sort of inventory, some sort of exclusivity, which brings them to the physical aspects as well of the sort of venue, buying space on the venue, etc. So yeah, you see both already happening.
Right. So while I was experimenting with SportsVot, while I was checking the platform before I came for the recording, the one thing that constantly came to my mind was more people need to know about this. More people need to know about that this platform actually exists, that is offering this opportunity for the grassroots competitions in the country to actually be broadcast and be viewed in an experience that is as seamless as the one SportsVot provides. So talk to me about the challenges that you have faced when you were starting out, the challenges that you are facing at the moment, and are they any different from the ones that you had when you started out, and what exactly are the potential challenges that you think you may be facing in the near future and in the few years later than that?
So I think the biggest challenge that I see currently, or when we started off also, was so earlier the education was a big problem. Like, people, digital, over the internet, people did not have the idea. Like, just before we started, few months before the pandemic, late 2019. But the pandemic accelerated the education process for us, where everyone now knew, you might have to sort of have video. You might have to have, you don't even get those tech people that used to come on ground now. Now, what do we do? The parents are wanting to watch their kids play. Uh, in the senior divisions, you are having people who are wanting their video captured. So that sort of accelerated that. That was one of the challenges initially, so that we were fortunate to have that acceleration given. And of course, the platform became simpler, and that also helped a bit. Uh, then the one of the challenges that we still face is dealing with associations. It's not that simple, right? People have their own ways of working. The associations are a big organization. They are not that straightforward. They are not a private company. So you have to have a lot of people who are on board with any sort of solution that you are wanting to onboard. So that's one of the challenges that I see, is how you can definitely get individual clubs very easily. They would definitely want to do it. Rajasthan United was like, we want to do it. We want to have our grassroots tournament, every single thing being done. Fantastic. It took them what? 2 days to get everything up and running, take a decision, agree on a pricing and, sell it to their sponsors then. And they made more money out of it eventually. So, fantastic decision, quick decision, done within 2 days, tournament over in 2 months, everything done. But if you go to a federation or an association over there, it's a bloody challenge, right? It's for them, they themselves have to convince the entire committee first and then take the proposal to a meeting, AGM, whatever, and then get it passed. So I feel the way we are structured in terms of all the people that are sort of controlling or in the associations, I think they need a lot of education when it comes to technology and tools. You might need younger people. I'm no disrespect to anyone, but you might need someone who's very well aware of, or some technical person, no matter the age, is aware of these things, and eventually takes those decisions faster. So I think pretty much these would be the biggest hurdles that we face every day and might keep facing even in the future. But if I'm not saying every association or every federation is like that. We have some fantastic partners in Kabaddi. We work with the Maharashtra State Kabaddi Association, and they've been fantastic partners for us. We've been working with them for over 2.5 years, and they've been very, very good. Typically, it's a stereotype that Kabaddi, you will not have awareness, you will not have people who are smart enough. It's absolutely wrong. Like, we are streaming over 12,500 Kabaddi matches in a year now, and just from a single state. So yeah, you have people who are very much proactive, associations, federations that are very proactive, and then you have most of the federations that are very slow. They need to know a lot of things before they can make a decision, and I can totally get their challenges as well. So I think there's some fundamental change that might need to happen at that level. But yeah, if you ask me personally, these are the challenges that we faced personally. But awareness, I don't think is that big a challenge once you have someone doing it. Once someone takes a lead in that circle, say for example, if you have football in Delhi, one particular league or a division is being streamed, every other division would want to have that. So there is a lot of network effect that keeps getting generated through that first mover. So it's all about getting that first mover in a particular region, and then once you get that, then it's easier.
Right. So when you were telling about giving the example of Rajasthan United and how they did not require that much time to come on board, and then you used the example of federations that sometimes they need to just ruminate among themselves and to reach any kind of agreement. And Arunava gave a very interesting reaction to that, which came across in a way that he just knew, okay, I've been there, I know what kind of issues are going on, what kind of issues this whole time takes. So Arunava, could you tell us a bit more about what kind of challenges actually enter when you start taking these kind of projects to federations?
I think it sometimes depends on what federations expect. Now the problem is, of course, for the federations is ideally they would love to have a platform. They don't do anything. If it's at the higher levels, they'd like to have a multi-camera shoot, a production house which takes care of all of these things, produces at a certain quality. It is then made available via an OTT platform, and theoretically it could bring in some revenue. Now I know that at the top level, in certain local leagues which are being streamed at the moment, that the production cost stands at about 3,000 rupees a match. What do you produce for 3,000 rupees? Now, SportVot is a good platform in the sense of giving people the chance to broadcast things which normally would have not made it to broadcast, or someone or the other was streaming it somewhere, put it out maybe on Facebook, and then hope someone, or maybe an Instagram live, and would have hoped that it somehow works. So again, there is this thing about how do you enhance your reach. Sporting federations to make them understand. Again, Sidhhant just gave the example of a club like Rajasthan United, who understood the value potentially not only for the club but also for the sponsors who are involved for the club, also for the club's um, being interesting for potential talent, because they can see what they are doing, and these are very, very important factors now. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge of getting the federation to understand. And no disrespect to people in federations, very often they are older, so therefore the understanding what is possible in today's day and age with technology, it is quite interesting and quite substantial, because if you are broadcasting these kind of leagues, again, you can a one mobile phone shoot is more than enough theoretically, even without commentary and everything. It's just to get it out there is a start. Then if you are confident of it, if you potentially are even earning a few rupees with it, then you potentially might think, listen, maybe I can do a little bit more. I'll spend some of the money on a little bit more technology, or maybe bring in someone to do commentary and other things, so you can enhance it. But as the first starting point, yeah, brilliant.
So, Arunava talks about this fact that even if you can just get a phone to broadcast a match and just put it out there, that is like half the battle won. So, that brings me to the question about the technical challenges, because you mentioned that as part of a value-added package, you offer the broadcast setup that you would put up yourself. So, in your experience thus far working with the grassroots competitions, have you found that people are more inclined to pay an extra for that value-added broadcast package, or are they more comfortable just just not paying for that and just putting their own single broadcast setup out there?
Of course, you want everything for free eventually, right? You want everything that is as low as possible. So it typically depends on the scale of the tournament. To be very honest, it's almost a direct correlation over here. Like if you have a very big league, like a Rajasthan basketball league is a good big league. Like they have enough budget for, spending 25,000-30,000 for 2-3 days to get a good camera person at least in place. So they are fine with that. They have a budget that is slotted out for that. So, but if you have a youth league where you have kids who are 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds who are playing, parents want to see it first. Second is the kids want to have an experience where they can go and watch themselves later. And then you have 4 or 5 sponsors who would want to just have visibility. So that's the basic motivation. They're happy with the phone camera setup. Now, the real technical challenge everywhere that we've seen typically is more often than not the internet. So if you have to sort of have a very good, stable live stream, you would ideally want a very good 4G connection, right? And typically in sports events, what is the typical challenge? You have quite a few people, getting gathering in a small area, which might have, hamper your signal or network connectivity. What do you do over there? You have a sort of a wireless or an Ethernet line put up, a Wi-Fi setup over there. So if you have a Wi-Fi setup, which doesn't cost you more than 1,500-2,000 for the entire month, right? Today, what are we spending on data? So that's the only thing that we recommend to people. Whoever comes, or who are customers who are constantly streaming and they're sort of trying to figure out better ways. One of the real answers is the internet, right? Even if you get the best possible lens, but your bandwidth is like a trip, it can't even send more than a single drop of water. Your best resolution will also be down graded to a 140 or a 360p broadcast and sent out. So that's where we educate people in terms of having the right internet connections, having a Wi-Fi connection. If you know that your event is going to have a lot of footfalls on the ground, if you know there are more digital viewers, a dongle or a 4G connection is more than enough. We've streamed hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of matches at least on just 4G connection. So it's very much situational, to be very honest. The technical challenges that we see are quite situational, to be honest. But more often than not, a simple, stable Wi-Fi connection, not that fancy connection, like $1,500-2,000 at the most, like your 100 Mbps line is more than enough, which is, in fact, even lesser. When you talk about geo plans, they're like $1,100-1,000. So yeah, that's pretty much what we recommend people. And if you have that, we get like the technology is meant to hog up as much internet that you give. So it will always give you a better resolution, better output, if you are able to give a good bandwidth. So yeah, more often than not, we see bandwidth as the constraint. A very good example of one of our customers is the Brahmaputra Volleyball League. Now, these are fantastic folks. Like they stream from, I don't know, for 30 odd districts, or how many districts are in Assam? Somewhere between 30, 40 maybe. They have centers in every single district that they stream a grassroots volleyball league. And they don't even have tripod stands. They've made tripods from bamboo sticks. They use 4G. They've never installed internet connection. They get around 7,000-8,000 viewers in a week on their league, and they are kids. They are 16-year-old, 18-year-old kids that are streaming, and we ended up hiring one person from their team eventually because he was quite good. So demographic and challenges are quite varying, and these guys, in spite of having numerous challenges, they were just able to use bamboo sticks and create tripods and start streaming their matches. They stream over 500 matches in a season, not just one or two, probably spanning over 50, 60 days, 60 match days, spanning over 3.5, 4 months. So, yeah, if you ask me, technical challenges are there everywhere, but there are a lot of workarounds around it. It's very much on the intent and how much do you want to go to the sort of the length and breadth of finding a solution.
Right. So this is the focus on the grassroots that we have talked about so far. This is the grassroots thing. What does the future has in store for SportsVot? Are you trying to limit this to the Indian region? Even if you are, do you plan to go up the ladder? Do you plan to reach out to the higher leagues across the sporting landscape? You ask to potentially reach out the second and third tiers of sporting competitions and ask them whether this is something that you would like to take part in, because we know that there are very few top level competitions that get adequate package, and after that this is what we are with. This is the best, as far as I'm concerned, this is the best grassroots package that I have seen anywhere else. So for everything that lies in the middle of that is lying in that void where nothing is getting broadcast. Are you planning to go higher up the ladder of the Indian sports, or do you even have half an eye on going international and taking this whole project to the international competitions and telling them, look, if you know what kind of a market India can provide for you, if you can bring yourself down here for any kind of for even a reasonable amount of revenue. So is international even a target, or is the entire plan is to just focus on India for now, and let's see how far we can go with the national level federations and even the ones slightly below that, and see to what level of Indian sports we can achieve before we can start planning international?
So if you ask me, in terms of the ladder, we already do state level, sometimes even national. Like we do volleyball nationals, we do kabaddi nationals also hopefully now, and we do already state championships in kabaddi in a few states. We are so if you ask me, we are already at that stage where you are doing like football. I don't know, Santosh Trophy was streamed by someone on the platform as well. And so we are already reaching those tiers when it comes to having the wider sort of tournaments or slightly bigger tournaments that are being done, not just grassroots. So that's already there. I wouldn't say we would be focusing on acquiring or into media rights acquisitions of even bigger tournaments, but we are more than happy at the scale at which we are in terms of the scale of the tournament. Of course, we would want more. We would want to have, like, we are at 25,000 matches today, 25,000 matches a year. We would definitely want it to be 50,000 in the next 1 year. So in terms of numbers, definitely yes. But the scale of the size of the tournaments, we are already at a size where we are more than happy with. Fantastic viewership through these tournaments, etc., etc. So we are, I think we are good with that. Of course, the target would be to get more such in more regions. That's one. When you ask me international, our strategy internationally is something slightly different. We already work with a few international partners. So we worked with a fantastic company called Pixelot, which were our great partners. They are more into the camera manufacturing and more on the hardware side. And we work as an enabler with them, where our solution is already used in South Africa, in a few parts of Europe, and many more, hopefully soon. So, so our focus internationally is more of being enablers, being more of a technology solution, because we don't want to focus on creating a community abroad, because it's too much to do in such a it's a small team. It's with limited resources that we've got. So our focus would be much on building a community over here when it comes to that side of things, more on the consumer side. But if you ask me internationally, it's more of enabling, or we also feel a little bit proud in how the Indian technology or something that is built in India is also enabling a lot of sports coverage internationally. So if you ask me, we've already done more than 3,000 international games, where they've been aired in their local platforms. Someone like Super Sport in South Africa, which is a very big broadcaster, like a Star Sports, is indirectly using our solution. We are more than happy. They hardly know about us, right? Because we are just an enabler for them. So our strategy internationally is more of this, where we are that layer in between, sort of a SaaS layer in between, which helps production, video capture, more than distribution. That's our focus.
Right. So, as I can see the clock, and we're reaching the end of our podcast today. So, I would like to put it to Arunava. Arunava, do you have any questions for Sidhhant based on every single thing that you've heard as of now?
I want to build on the last question that you asked him in regard to where do you see the journey going. You've explained a little bit, okay, that you're a technology enabler rather than going abroad and trying to replicate or what you've done in the Indian market space. But where do you see yourself in regard to, are you, as you said, you started off with grassroots, you've gone to the national level tournament. Do you see yourself of becoming a sort of a full-fledged OTT platform, getting in the big money, maybe competing with a fan code or something of that sort? Is that the route where you see it, or where you actually are going to be bidding for rights in the future? Or do you see yourself rather sort of, as I said, as being more of an enabler for people, for teams, for leagues, for federations to get themselves out into the digital space via audiovisual?
Very good question. As of now, I don't think we would want to compete with someone like a fan code. First, A, we don't have the resources to compete. B, even if we have the resources, it's not the core fundamental on which the companies or the product is built on. It's more user generated and more open ended compared to a fan code or an equivalent of that. So I would more switch to or make it more analogous to something like a YouTube or a Twitch, where it's more I wouldn't say democratic, it's not the right word, but more open ended. I think, for the lack of a better word, I can talk about being it more open ended. So I think bidding for big rights or bidding for I know Fancode was trying to bid for IPL rights as well this time with Dream11 as a whole package. Definitely do not want to enter that space, and it takes a lot of resources also to do that. So and a lot of success for us to reach that stage also. So I don't think we are focused on that. I think an extension to what we are doing would be creating that community around athletes, around coaches, scouts, which sort of builds that ecosystem, which builds that long tail towards progression, discovering, finding. Like, we have had a very interesting piece that is happening with whatever we've been doing is talent spotting in itself. Like, you have a player that has been playing in the third division of Mumbai football, is now playing in a super division football club in MFA because they were remotely spotted in a live stream. Some scout checked their player profile on SportVot and managed to get through us, and through us, he was able to get to the player eventually. So I think our focus is, and I think the market is bigger as well over there, and pretty much adapt. Is on building this ecosystem eventually, where video serves as the core backbone of your profile or your platform, and then you have these, call it marketplace, call it LinkedIn, whatever you want to call it on top, which is creating this network, which sort of connects you as well to the right opportunities if you're a player, and vice versa, connects you to the right talent if you're a club or a coach or a scout. Even Mumbai City FC would want to, of course, get the next best 16, 17-year-olds in their academy. So similarly happens in Kabaddi. Like, we've had around 2,700 opportunities created for Kabaddi players to work in Bharat Petroleum, to work in Union Bank, to get scouted by a Pro Kabaddi franchise. So we are already seeing that happen, and I think how can we structure, organize, maybe eventually monetize this would be the next challenge for us. But yeah, if you ask me, our focus is more on this creation of this ecosystem, and not just being this OTT or another OTT platform which is bidding for rights. Or of course we will still be a video streaming or / OTT platform, whatever you call it. But the idea is to have this ecosystem, physical plus digital ecosystem, created along with it.
Right. So I think we're reaching the end of our podcast for today. So once again, Sidhhant, I would really like you to come on the podcast and chat with us about SportVot. I find it a very, very brilliant thing that is happening. I'm glad that is happening, that someone has actually taken the initiative and has been working on it for quite a while. And my only hope is that you guys keep growing, and SportVot becomes more mainstream in due time, and people get to know more about this. And we can create that ecosystem that you talk about, that the Indian grassroots scenario is really, really crying out for. So that's it for today, folks. And we'll be seeing you very soon with another aspect of Indian sports. This is me, Anshuman Joshi, signing off with Sidhhant and Arunava.
Thank you, Anshuman. Thanks, Arunava.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.